now you have nostalgia where your fans are now chasing their youth because they grew with you. As you're getting older, so are they. And they want to be reminded musically of where they used to be. Well, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share the Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com. All of our shades are now on sale for $20. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue talking about Mary Wells. Wow! Mary's heroin use lasted until nearly the end of her life. In 1990, Joyce Moore put Mary in drug rehab at St. Joseph's Hospital in Burbank, California. Mary stayed there for 5 weeks, attending 12-step meetings and otherwise fully participating in the program. It worked, but she had only a short time left to live. Wells' long-term drug use may have eased what she described as her emotional pain, but it also affected her personality and hurt her chances for favorable publicity and for work. Mary's friend Joyce Moore said she noticed that when Wells arrived for performances, she often looked like a bag lady, like she had had a tough night and was not kempt. Moore would then marvel at Mary's transformation when she appeared on stage. She had put on her stage look. It was like somebody waved a magic wand and provided her with lipstick, a gown, and a wig. Pause. You know how us ladies do, y'all. You know how it be. We be sitting around the house all day with sweatpants, child, and boogers hanging out our nose. And then when our girlfriends call us and be like, let's go out. Baby, it's like we step out the pumpkin. You know how us ladies can do. Or we can throw it on. We can make shift some shit. It was like somebody waved a magic wand and provided her with lipstick, a gown, and a wig. And she always had great grace and poise. She knew who she was. Moore added, however, that if you looked closely, you could see that the gown was really in shambles. The wig didn't fit right and needed some cleaning. And that as good as she looked, it really was an illusion, child. One thing I will say about that Mary Wells, that Motown really put a sense of integrity in her. Like, for real, she could have went on stage, anything, but she maintained that Motown pristine. Oh, and one of y'all told me, oh my God, one of y'all told me, I love you, people, I love you. I had no idea that in the song Pop Life, that Prince was talking about that juggy and the booger sugar. Okay, was it a boy when you wanted a girl? I thought he was talking about birthing a boy, and then the boy ended up being gay, or the girl ended up being a gay girl. Somebody in the comments interpreted it as heroin use versus booger sugar use. In the mid-1980s, after Mary had agreed to record the song Yes for the soundtrack to the movie Dirty Dancing, she failed to appear for the recording session. Yep. Them drugs will do that to you, girl. You have choices, right? Do I want to lay in the bed all day with this euphoric feeling, or do I want to go to work? I think I'm going to do this juggy. That's another one for Hawan or that boy. And lay in the bed all day. That's what happens when you dealing with the drug use. Another vocalist, Mary Clayton was hurriedly drafted to fill in for her, costing Mary a much needed opportunity at what was certainly a low point in her career. Clayton's rendition of the song rose to number 79 on the Billboard R&B chart and number 45 on the Billboard Pop chart in 1988. Although drugs hurt Mary's career, her own natural generosity had made her sympathetic to other drug users. When she was performing at the Apollo Theater in the 1960s and vocalist Frankie Lymon was asking everyone for money, Mary was the only one who gave it to him. Everyone else said Lyman was just going to use the money to buy drugs, but her only reply was, he's going to get it somewhere. Lyman died of a drug overdose in 1968 at age 25. Years later, an Apollo employee complained to Martha Reeves about how often Mary had asked him to go out and purchase drugs for her while she was performing there later in her career. Now, I don't know about that. I didn't know that was part of the job, to go get drugs. As her drinking and drug problems escalated and her age increased, Mary continued to find it necessary to make constant and energetic stage appearances to pay her bills. But money problems and the lack of her formerly extensive Motown resources forced her to call on brothers, husbands, lovers, and pickup bands to fill gaps in her routine. The results were extremely varied. The man who came to the rescue of her act was a singer, songwriter, and band leader, Will Porter, who joined the Wells team after watching one of her less successful concerts in 1981. In an attempt to demonstrate his skills as a band leader and organizer, Porter asked Mary to be his guest on a show he was putting on at a San Francisco nightclub, the Old Waldorf. Porter said he secured Mary as his guest artist for only a few $100s, although she had to drive the 400 miles from Los Angeles to San Francisco to make the gig. Porter's ploy worked. Mary asked him to become her musical director after participating in his concert. He held that post from 1981 through 1992, often doubling as the opening act at her concerts, and he even ran the music at her funeral. Luckily, Mary remained a marvelous on-stage performer, but much of her success on the road was due not to her songs, but to her Motown classics. Luckily, Mary remained a marvelous on-stage performer, but much of her success on the road was due not to her new songs, but to her Motown classics. In her early days as a post-Motown performer, the songs were almost contemporary. Then as the years flew by, the excellence of those songs as well as the strength of Mary's continuing rendition of them gave her an unexpected new status as uncontested queen of the oldies. Anyway, let me change my shades. All sunshades are on sale for $20. Okay, I'm trying to sell these blickers so I can have some pocket change when I move back to DC. So let's talk about the middle. Let's say another Motown act, The Temptations. Ooh, they had that struggling first part. And then they had the peak, okay? And they was hot. Ooh, who's your favorite Temptation? Now I think my favorite Temptation might be the Otis. And yeah, I think it might be the Otis. Otis, outside of all my lead singers of the Temptations, I think Otis got my nomination. All right? And we know why. This book club knows why. All were beautiful, magnanimous, stellar men, pristine, sharp, when they was at their peak. When the Dennis Edwards came in, and then they had a bit of a dry spell because they moved to another record label. And they were in that dry point it was just nobody was checking for them no more. That's that middle part. And I think it's that period where they become a thing of the past. And then, they down there, they wallowing, not that they ever were at the bottom. It's just people aren't checking for them. And then comes the 80s. The 80s is a beautiful era for more than just a cracky. When you have those acts like Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight, the Temptations. You have so many acts that were successful in the late 60s that their careers have been rejuvenated because that sound of the 80s allows them to replenish their career. We got Aretha Franklin with Jump, Jump, Jump to It. The Temptations, Treat Her Like a Lady during the 80s. Now you have nostalgia, where your fans are now chasing their youth because they grew with you. As you're getting older, so are they. And they want to be reminded musically of where they used to be. In the 80s, they were able to generate new songs in the 80s and still appreciate what they did in the late 60s, early 70s. That's where Mary Wells is right now in her career. History was on her side. As the baby boomers who were teenagers in the 60s became middle-aged in the 80s, that generation's favorite music made a big comeback. Oldies stations were established and their audiences grew rapidly. Classic pop and rock and roll songs, including a large percentage of Motown hits, were featured on these stations and on the soundtracks of new films, including The Big Chill, a 1983 film about the end of the 60s that uses 5 Motown tunes. Many 1960s Motown songs were combined into albums that were widely produced and successfully marketed. Motown even re-released 8 of Mary's hit tunes from the 1960s in 1982 and 1983 on 4 Motown Yesterday 45 RPM records. As Mary's career as a top 10 recording artist faded into history, nostalgia kept her performing career alive. Standing on the top, hey, hey, when you're on the top, there's no place you can something but the down, down, down. Hey, when you're on the street, the love the way it sound, yeah. But when you're all alone, where do all the freaks and fans and people go? I don't know. I'm telling you that the 80s was known for more than just the cracky, okay? And all these young, dirty little boys becoming millionaires. And like a culture of young people dying. Oh my God. The 80s was a special time because it gave those oldie but goodie artists the opportunity to reinvent themselves. Okay, I spoke previously about Aretha Franklin was one to reinvent herself, Gladys Knight, the Temptations. Guys, if you know another act that was an oldie but goodie and resurfaced in the 80s to have a good run, you hear me? Because Gladys Knight, I walk around trying to find something to do, baby, until your return. Turn on the TV and play some solitaire, just a job for a while. Despite Wells' incredible endurance on the road, where she earned fees varying from $200 to $100,000 per concert, with the higher figures occurring after Porter joined her team, Mary was always broke. Porter said. Sometimes Wells could be her own worst enemy as far as money was concerned. George Schnack, who had become her manager soon after she left Motown and signed her with 20th Century, certainly got many bookings for her and tried to get others. In the early 1970s, he told Wells he was trying to land a beer commercial for her that would require her only to record a jingle for a radio play and would pay her $20,000. But Mary was on that bullshit. She was like, oh no, I can't do a beer commercial. Girl, that would ruin my career, my reputation as a sober woman. Okay. Despite the fact that you round there to the methadone clinic singing my guy with the rest of the methadone people that are struggling to maintain their sobriety. Despite that, okay, girl, you telling your manager, no, I won't do it. I'm not gonna sing no beer commercial for $20,000. And then the bitch was like, excuse me, Mary. And then the lady was like, but then again, it is 20,000. George Schneck, go on over there and talk to them people, please, for me. George Schneck was like, too late. They don't want your ass no more. Go somewhere and be sober. Mary's continued on the road performing benefited her in 1981 in a very big way. A record company executive who had grown up on a steady diet of Motown hits offered her a chance to re-enter the recording industry. He was Larkin Arnold.